Let's jump into the first big news from timcast.com. Biden admin has suspended the Disinformation Governance Board. The board's executive director, Nina Jankowicz, announced her departure from the Department of Homeland Security. So just right off the bat, it was a terrible idea. I don't think he's doing this because of free speech. I think it's polling poorly among Democrats. Bill Maher came out on his show and said, these are not bright people in government. So when you get Bill Maher on his show to a million liberals saying this is bad, don't be surprised then when they're like, oh, we got a midterm coming up and we're losing.
Well, wait, I mean, how do we know this is true or not if Biden suspended the Disinformation Board?
Well, we do know it. In fact, there was a question about it today in the White House press conference with the new press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. Peter Doocy asked if perhaps the Disinformation Governance Board was suspended due to disinformation.
Yeah, well, there we go.
And
without a governance board, how would we know
and
this info or not?
Jean-Pierre basically confirmed that, yes, there was misinformation surrounding the Disinformation Governance Board, that a lot of people had slammed it.
It's the perfect crime.
It's the perfect crime, yeah, that a lot of people had slammed it. It was actually pretty amazing to see this come down today.
That's misinformation. I don't believe it. No, I mean that seriously. That they were like, oh, people were spreading lies about it, so we had to shut it down. No.
No, it was obviously not lies. It was obvious that people were spreading truth about it. In fact, the head of the Ministry of Truth, the Minister of Truth, Nina Jankowicz, had spread substantial amounts of misinformation all by herself on her own feeds. And it was spectacular because as soon as she came out on Twitter and announced that this is what she'd been working on for the last 7 months, Jack Posobiec went out there and just started pulling all of her old tweets and all of her old things where she was talking about Russia collusion and all of these things, COVID things. And she was like just spreading misinformation and disinformation all over the place.
You know what? I really hope her and James Lindsay end up in a musical together.
Yes.
Did you guys see her singing?
Okay.
The whole thing. People were like making fun of her. I was like, dude,
That
make
would
fun
be
of her for
pretty
the
wild.
misinformation.
Oh,
Don't
I
make
know.
fun of her for singing.
Yeah.
Well, the political singing was real cringe.
Ugh.
When she did the Mary Poppins political thing,
my
I was like,
gosh.
come on.
That's no good.
What are we doing here?
I don't know, convince me.
But the actual, she got ragged on by the caller. I defended her when she was doing that, what do I got to do to be famous bit?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, it was good. Ian, I said, I thought her singing was good because it's not political. She was just doing a bit. And she was like, I want to be famous. And then Ian was like, no, she's got her shoulders up and tight. She's not singing from the chest. She doesn't know what she's doing. And I'm like,
Which is hilarious because like usually Ian goes easier on people, even when they say things politically that we very much disagree with. But she's singing wrong. He's like, no, this is absolutely not. Like we cannot let this stand.
he took theater.
Yeah, exactly.
So he was like, I am offended by this.
Like that's his
You know what?
area.
I studied theater for pretty much my entire life, and I actually thought that it was kind of cute that she was into doing performance art, even though she had this weird government career. I didn't have an issue with with that singing. I did have an issue with her COVID misinformation Mary Poppins song. I thought
Yeah.
that was total trash.
It's weird how when we were young, the adults who were writing books about this stuff, when we weren't even alive, the books that were coming out were like the future dystopia.
Mm-hmm.
Men have steel jaws from the war and metal limbs and cyborgs rule all. And the government comes and bangs a giant sword on the ground. Do as you're told. And what we really got was this permanent child who's singing Mary Poppins going, we're gonna block your news. We're gonna, and it's like, it's substantially creepier. Millennials aren't growing up.
No, but they don't want to. And in part, millennials aren't growing up because adults have told them that adulthood is bad. We come up with words like adulting as though there's some problem
I know.
with responsibility. And it's like, just grow up, be responsible.
Why?
It's not bad. The thing, too, is it's like when you were a kid. Remember when you were a kid and everyone wanted to grow up? I don't know if you guys had that. And people were like, oh, I could buy all the toys I want. I'll get to eat all the candy that I want. And it's like now we
It's
tell...
like, yeah, you do get to do that.
And
I mean,
it
of course.
turns out you do. Like, I buy ice cream and I put it in my fridge, in my freezer, and then we eat it.
When I was like 20, I just one day was like, what's one thing I always thought I would do and never did? I'm going to go to the store and buy a whole thing of cookie dough and just walk around eating it.
Nice.
So I went to the grocery store. I
You can
grabbed
do
a
that.
thing of
It's
cookie
true.
dough. I bought it, started eating it, and some little kid saw me and he went, oh, as he walked, as
That's
I
right.
walked past, but it
That's
gets better.
right.
And I'm like, I looked at it and I was like,
Heck
that's
yeah.
right. And I bite it. And then 5 minutes later I went, oh,
I didn't
not
see the
good.
aftermath.
like, this is why my parents said you don't do these things.
By the way, I meant James O'Keefe, not James Lindsay. When
Oh, I was
I'm so
confused.
sorry. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not
That's
James.
what
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about like his sword movement.
Yeah,
That's
no,
weird,
James
too.
Lindsay would never be in a musical.